Come one, come all to the Decisions Daily Lunch and Learn. Welcome. We are happy that you are here and happy to be talking about decisions and talking about how it can help your life. So I'm going to give a couple more minutes, maybe 3 or 4, for a couple more people to show up. But we do have some pre-asked questions that I'll pull from. And then once we are done with those pre-asked questions, we will go into a kind of ask as you will section, or anyone who wants to can ask. So so I'm going to get super quiet for a couple minutes while we wait for another few people. Thank you. All right, 3 minutes have been given. We will go ahead and proceed with today's Lunch and Learn. My name is Josh. I will be hosting today. Been at Decision for a little while, so I know my stuff. Don't question me. So we'll go ahead and get started. The first question I have is coming from Govind. Is that? Not sure if he's here, so we'll skip his. So next is Chuck. Chuck, it seems like you just want kind of just help setting up a scheduled job or talking through your scheduled job. I can let you talk if you want. If not, we can just kind of start off and go for it.
That is correct. Thank you. Yes, in our particular use case, we have some scheduled jobs that we don't seem to be getting email alerts on failures, and it's kind of hit and miss.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so let's look at let's set up one pretty simple one, and then kind of you can describe how it works, and we can go about that way. So let's see. Escape this. Go to my local host. Log in really quick. I say really quick, but then this is my local host, so I kind of destroy it every month. So it's not too quick. Okay. So a scheduled job is meant to perform a job run at a certain time interval. So these jobs can kind of do whatever you need them to do. A lot of people do interesting stuff with them. On my local host, I have one scheduled job in here. It's for my account extension, my pseudo account extension. It allows me to just add extra values. So what I'm using this account extension scheduled job for is to make sure that every account on my system has this extension, has this structure with it. So super handy. So I'm going to create a new one under at my apps. I'll do Project Bird. Now you said on exception is when you're not getting the email, right?
Well, it's kind of hit and miss. Basically, our job goes out, hits a FTP site, downloads some files, processes. We have some throw statements in there if we have an exception. So our expectation is when we throw this exception and the job fails, that it will email us. We're concerned that maybe the setting of the scheduled job is not set to ever fail, because it's almost like these jobs queue up until we correct whatever the network issue or credentials issue may be, and then then it's like a floodgate opens after that.
Yeah. Okay. So let's do it the first one. Let's just create a simple one really quick. Schedule job flow. I'm just gonna set it to daily schedule, midnight. That's fine with me. What kind of logging or error handling do you have? You said you just have a catch exception.
That is correct. We, if for any reason when we're trying to engage with this FTP site or do this file processing, or if we, don't have drive space or can't connect to the server, we throw various exceptions.
Okay. And you just use a regular catch exception step, right?
I believe so. I'll have to
Okay.
confirm that.
Cool. I don't have or my emails do not work on my server. So I'm just going to log a simple log message that just says what's happening. I'm going to make it warn. Okay, I'm going to save that. Close and save. And this flow should run perfectly fine because it's really not doing anything. So that's kind of what I want. I'm going to run job. Should have been perfectly fine. I'm going to duplicate so we can go down to the logging. Okay. Sweet. Okay, so now I'm going to go back into the testing job and I'm going to cause it to error. So let's just delete that. Okay. Run job. This is me testing. So I just received my my error. Now, what you do when you put a catch exception in here is it's not actually going to fail. That's the thing. It's going to just proceed as normal because the catch exception is meant to handle the exception, right? And so it's going to look like it doesn't fail, like it didn't fail. So that's kind of just how this works. Now, you have a catch exception in there and it goes straight to an email step. Could the email step be failing?
No, what I think what it is I think looking at the flows, they're doing a throw exception with the expectation that when we throw and there is no catch, that the job will fail. And then on failure, we have assigning a task to an individual with the expectation that that individual would be emailed of the assignment.
Where's the failure?
The failure is in the flow itself, and it just throws an exception. So, and there's nothing to catch the exception. So we're trying to understand how is the proper way to have a scheduled job detect that it failed. And if so, then that once that failure has tripped, to ensure that we are notifying, like I think we set the number of attempts to 1.
Mm-hmm.
And then on failure, assign it to a particular individual or a group of individuals. And we're not actually using email in the flow. We're expecting, and it may be an improper expectation, that the scheduled job task would detect the failure and then notify you, do an assignment on failure, and then that assignment would generate an email through the normal mechanism within decisions.
Mm-hmm. So this right here is what I'm going to set up is kind of like, I call them the expected errors, right? It's where you get that no results path. So I'm going to do email address equals pancake, right? And if it equals pancake and they find results, perfectly fine. Let's keep moving forward. If there's no results, it's going to go down this no results path. This is where I would do a throw exception step. This is going to throw it, and this right here is going to catch it. So I'm going to say no emails named pancake, right? Then that's going to throw an exception to here. This is going to catch it and just move it forward to my log. And so I can probably.
And that makes perfect sense to me. I understand that. So is the expectation that if we wanted to email that we would actually have to put those steps in our flows? The concern was the approach that we're taking was configuring a scheduled job. And if it failed, that the scheduled job, the mechanisms built into decisions where I wouldn't have to put those particular nodes in my workflow. Is that the preferred way to do it, or?
I put them inside of my workflow just so you can run it outside of the scheduled job interface. Most of the time, scheduled jobs work properly, but some of the times I like to configure my scheduled jobs to work outside of the scheduled job area, right? Okay. I would make them a flow that I would put on a dashboard somewhere where they can just click the button and run the same exact flow as my scheduled job. Kind of like AD sync, right? AD sync we typically set up to run at midnight, syncing all of our Active Directory with our decisions accounts. But there's sometimes, the case where you hire someone in the middle of the day and you want them to start working now, You don't want to confine your scheduled job to be just middle of the night. You want to be able to give yourself access to do it. So thinking about it that way, you would throw an exception. It would send an email to somebody, and then they would get an assignment to work. Do you have the error handling module that Decisions has?
I believe so.
I wouldn't call it a module, maybe like a project, but
I'm not sure. That's something I'll have to look at, but
okay.
But you've already given me some clarity.
Cool.
If we feel that the recommended practice is to go ahead and do that error handling within the flow, that's not too big of a deal. We can use an environment variable or configure, something in the environment to say these are the people that we're going to notify on these failures. So that works for us.
Cool.
I will appreciate it.
What I would do is I would configure the handle errors flow and just put it in there like it's a normal error handling, right? And then you can kind of overwrite the assignees of the error handling and just provide an extra group of people. And I would set up a specific group of accounts who need to be notified when that happens. So that should get you moving forward, all right?
Appreciate that.
Sweet. No problem. Thank you. So we have another question here that was pre-submitted by Sai Naveen, but it doesn't look like they are here. So we'll probably just keep it until the next time someone shows, or next time he shows up. Let me read it.
Well, these are recorded, Josh, so it might be a good idea.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, perfectly fine. So we'll start off with the first one, right? Govind Sahu. Govind Sahu says, can you help me out with this logic work in decisions? So he has Govind, you're here. Perfect. I'm going to allow you to talk and we can just kind of work through this together. So variable object equals B, the for loop iteration through the list. First, if object is in list B, then return object value. Whenever the object match, I'd like to return object value. That seems simple enough. So we'll come back here to my project bird. We'll do the same type of thing. I'm going to call it search for B. So let's do it for each. I'll do search item list. Search for item. This will be my list. I'm going to populate it with A, B, C. And then this one's just going to be A. So I'm going to for each through my search for item list. And there's a configured rule already called string is in list. It's actually, string is in list. Here, I'll make this search for item list as well. And I'll just give it one item of make it a string. Just give one item A. So I'm iterating through the ABC, and I'm trying to see if the item I'm iterating through is inside of the list. So I'm going to select from flow, search for item list, and the value I'm going to do is actually, I'll make this. This is way more complicated. I'm just going to make it search for item. Let it just be A. So actually do string equals. Select from below. The item is the item I'm iterating through. And this is going to be the search for item, which is going to be the A, which I've configured somewhere else. If that is false, I want to keep searching. If that's true, I want to just leave. And now I can use that item in any way I want to. So I'm just going to have it output the item. And if it's done, then I would set up a end step that just would say not found. Cool. So if I debug, I'm going to find A. And then now I can switch that to B, debug again, and now I can find B. Does that help?
Yeah, thanks for that. A quick one relate to that. Say suppose A have a value 1, B have value 2, and C have value 3. I want that value to be returned, the final result. It said that B dot value, that means it should show 2.
It should show B dot value. I guess I'm kind of confused.
Okay, so it's an object. So A has a value 1, B has a value 2, and C has a value 3.
Okay.
So how can I, the final result can show 2 if it is B. If it is C, then the value is, that object dot value. So that means it's 3. You got my point?
Kinda. So you're searching through objects, and maybe I made them strings, so that wasn't really helping. I'm actually not looking for the item. I'm looking for the actual value inside of the item. So like so I'm looking at strings. You're talking about looking at the fields of the object?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You're saying, does my field of my object, is it in the list? And then if so, grab that item.
Yeah, item dot value.
Item dot value. Okay. That's
So what I did is I defined an object, say suppose ABC, and A has a value of 1, 2 has a B has a value of 2, and C has a value of 3. So when I iteration through and put a if conditions and say, object within that list, if I'm passing, say suppose I'm passing C, and it iteration through and it match that that list have a C, but C has a value, it's 3. So the final result should display as the object dot value, that means 3.
So have you ever looked into using data pairs? Data pairs will pop you out into like a name / or name dot value. So if you wanted to,
okay. No, the
just
way
do-
you did, I create that. But if I need to, create any other, object,
Yeah.
then okay.
This would convert your object, any object you have, into data pairs. So I'm going to
Okay.
use the get by ID step. And it's not very common. People use
Sure.
These steps, so they're very, very hidden away. I'm going to go to system security accounts, and I'm just gonna get my Josh plus fitness test account, right? So I'm gonna have copy that, this in here, paste. Okay, cool. And then I'm gonna take this this object account, I'm gonna put it into data pairs. That's gonna split everything up. Let's just see what that looks like from start to finish before we move forward. Let's go to done to end step, debug. So okay, the get by ID is gonna pass out this this object right here, which is great. And then the object to data pairs is going to turn that whole object into data pairs. Anything that's null, it's going to turn it into stuff like that. So right, it's going to look almost exactly the same. Anything null, however, like right here, like location ID, it's not going to show you because it doesn't matter. So let's say I want to find the value of one of the properties.
Okay.
So let's see. Let me get one of the properties values. I want to find authentication type, right? Let me just grab authentication type. And I have my thing in data pairs now. So I don't need this create data step. All I need is this for each. I'm going to loop through each of the items in my data pairs list, each of my data pairs. And then I'm going to say item, I'm going to say value one. I'm going to write it as constant, give my authentication type. I'm going to say which one of my items name equals authentication type. And then once I'm done with that, I can output the value, right? So I'm going to output my item. Now I can loop through my account and figure out what my item is. So if I'm looking for authentication type, I can pass that whole object out and you can see it on my output step. It's going to be authentication type, output value of 1.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Does that match your example pretty well?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, data pairs might be the answer. You can convert any object and decisions into data pairs, which is just going to give you that name output value type, as well as you can convert it back from data pairs back into an object if you really needed to, right? Let's say you want to grab the value and just, convert it back. You can do that as well. So,
thank you.
Yep, absolutely. See, there's just data pair to object step. I can just go right back into it if I needed to. So, cool. All right. Moving forward, we have a question from Sai Naveen. And he has 2 questions, looks like, in here. 1, while creating reports, whatever data fields we are selected from the data source will automatically generate SQL query in view SQL section. In the same, do we have a scope where we can add our own SQL query in a report for creating reports screen? Yes, you can make a query report. If I go to my project bird again, and I just go to create report, pretty sure you can come in here. Database integration, low reports. Looks like you can do query source report. Does this look right, Brian? I haven't made a query source report in a long time.
I haven't done it this way. I've done it with the other way, where you create the query in the
and then create the report.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
With the same way you make a data structure.
Gotcha.
But that's pretty neat too.
I think that was like a raw Oracle. Something like that.
Go to your designer, yeah.
And you've done it like this where you create the query and then create the report?
Yep, you should be able to select that as your data source
Oh,
for the report
cool.
now.
Perfect. Where at?
Try searching it. Would you name it?
All accounts. Hmm.
Is it not showing?
No, maybe it has to be in the database.
This is strange. What version is this?
Yeah. I'm in version like 6. It's pretty old. Okay. So I have your email, and if you're listening to this, I'll have your email and I'll send you a email about it and we can discuss. The second one is, let's say I have one column which contains repeated values. Now I want to display that column in a report as single values, which usually we can group by in functional SQL, SQL. Now, so my agenda here is how to use specific SQL commands and reports like group by, having such commands. Yeah, reporting in decisions is a little bit different. If you wanted to do a group by, you can do created. Let's say I have this created by, I have 2 created by system. You can just do this little tab over here, which is going to group them by what they were created by. And then if you really didn't want them to show, you can always make that row invisible and it'll still be grouped by. So that's kind of how you would get around that kind of viewing point in SQL. It's just a little kind of widget on the report row. So, yep. All right. That concludes all of the pre-submitted questions. Now, does anyone have a question that they would like answered? All right. If not, we can go ahead and end this a little early. Feel free to submit any questions you might have. Oh, Chuck, looks like you have a question.
I'm going to speak for a colleague of mine, Janice. I know she was going to ask, I think she was going to ask this question. We would
Yeah.
like to know, how would we export a project? We have a very large project. We're trying to move from one environment to the other. And this project has a lot of preview history in it. How would one export in version 7 without all the history and all the preview images to result that the exported zip file is not bloated?
What I imagine is you shouldn't get all those preview and history items coming with your project. That's the expectation. If I'm, as far as my knowledge goes, I would think that you wouldn't have to export those preview images and historical objects. So if that's the case, and that seems like an issue we should resolve of getting rid of those items. If you wouldn't mind, submit a support ticket for that.
Okay.
And see if we can talk through why those are showing up for you.
All right, perfect.
And then in the same breath, you can import and export projects using the right-click action on any kind of objects that are in said project. You would just say export project on the item, and then it will basically pull up that screen. But it sounds like you've already seen that
Yes.
screen, because that's where all the preview images and historical items are coming through. Also, if you have a repository, it's a very quick, easy project migration. So
Okay.
they can
Thank you for that.
talk you through that as well if you need to.
Well, thank you. You have a
Right.
good day.
Thank you, Janice. You guys have a great day as well. We'll end that early, all right? All right, bye.